Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 42 of our reading of the Harvard Classics. The Harvard Classics are composed of, here we go, the Apology, Phaedo, and Credo of Plato, translated by Benjamin Jowett, the Golden Sayings of Epictetus, translated by Hastings Crossley, and the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, translated by George Long, edited by Charles W. Eliot, LLD, with internet introductions and notes. We'll go over the copyright information here, which clearly says copyright 1980, 1937, and 1907 by Grolier Enterprises Corporation. And we are going to continue with the philosophy of Antoninus. And we just started this the other day, so let's continue. We were halfway through this really long paragraph, and I think most of these are really long paragraphs without breaks. So let's see. A poor remark. Okay, wait. Okay, well, let's see. Oh, here. We're going to start back here a little ways, just to make sure. There are only a few passages of this kind, but they are evident. Okay, well, wait. Okay, we're going to start here. All his ethical philosophy and his passive virtue might turn out to be idle words if he were once exposed to the rude realities of human existence. Fine thoughts and moral dissertations from men who have not worked and suffered may be read, but they will be forgotten. No religion, no ethical philosophy is worth anything if the teacher has not lived the life of the apostle and been ready to die, the death of a martyr. Not in passivity, the passive effects, but in activity lie the evil and the good of the rational social animal. Rational social animal, okay. Oh, there it is. Just as his virtue and his vice lie not in passivity, but in activity, the Emperor Antonius was a practical moralist. For his youth, he followed a laborious discipline, and then his high station placed him above all want or the fear of it. He lived as frugally and temperately as the poorest philosopher. Epictetus wanted little, and it seemed that he always had the little that he wanted, and he was content with it, as he had been with his servile station. But Antonius, after his ascension to the empire, sat on an uneasy seat. He had the admiration of an empire which extended from the Euphrates to the Atlantic, from the cold mountains of Scotland to the hot sands of Africa. And we may imagine that we cannot know it by experience, what must be the trials and troubles, the anxiety and the sorrows for him who has the world's business on his hands, and with the wish to do the best that he can, and the certain knowledge that he can do very little of the good which he wishes. In the midst of war, pestilence, conspiracy, general corruption, and what with the weight of so unwieldy an empire upon him, he may easily comprehend. We may easily comprehend that Antonius often had need of all his fortitude to support him. The best and the bravest men had moments of doubt and of weakness, but if they are the best and the bravest, they rise again from their depression by recurring to first principles. And as Antonius does, the emperor says that life is smoke and vapor, and St. James in his epistle is of the same mind, and the world is full of envious, jealous, malignant people, and a man might be well content to get out of it. He has doubts, perhaps, sometimes even about that to which he holds most firmly. There are only a few passages of this kind, but they are evidence of the struggle which even the noblest of the sons of men had to maintain against the hard realities of his daily life. A poor remark is which I have seen somewhere and made in a disparaging way, that the emperor's reflections show that he has need of consolation and comfort in life, and even to prepare him to meet his death. True that he did need comfort and support, and we see how he found it. He constantly recurs to his fundamental principle that the universe is wisely ordered, that every man that every man is a part of it. Sorry, let me find that word. That is okay. Okay. Um. Okay. Um. Let's see. That every man is a part of it, and must conform to that order which we cannot change, and whatever the deity has done is good, and all mankind are a man's brethren, and he must love and cherish them and try to make them better, even those who would do him harm. This is his conclusion. What then is that which is able to conduct a man? One thing and and only one, philosophy. But this consists in keeping the divinity within a man free from violence and unharmed, superior to pain and pleasure, doing nothing without purpose, nor yet falsely and with hypocrisy, not feeling the need of another man's doing or not doing anything, and besides accepting all that happens and all that is allotted as coming from thence, whatever it is, from whence he himself came, and finally waiting for death with a cheerful mind, and being nothing else than a dissolution of the elements of which every living being is compounded. But if there is no harm to the elements themselves in each continually changing in another, why should a man have any apprehension about the change and dissolution of all the elements himself? For it is according to nature, and nothing is evil that is according to nature. The physic of Antoninus is the knowledge of the nature of the universe, of its government, and of the relation of man's nature to both. He names the universe the universal substance, and he adds that reason governs the universe. He also uses the term universal nature, or nature of the universe. He calls the universe the one and all, which he names cosmos or order. If he ever seems to use these general terms as significant of the all of all that man can in any way conceive to exist, he still on other occasions plainly distinguishes between matter, material things, and cause, origins, reason. This is conformable to Zenos' doctrine that there are two original principles of all things, and which acts, and that which is acted upon. That which is acted on is the formless matter, and that which acts is the reason. God, who is external and operates through all matter and produces all things. So Antonius speaks of the reason which pervades all substance and through all time by fixed periods, revolutions, administers the universe. God is eternal and matter is eternal. It is God who gives form to matter, but he is not said to have created matter. According to this view, which is as old as Anaxagoras, God, the matter, exists independently, but God governs matter. This doctrine is simply the expression of the fact that the existence both of matter and of God The Stoics did not perplex themselves with the insoluble question of the origin of nature and nature of matter. Antonius also assumes a beginning of things as we now know them, but his language is sometimes very obscure. I have endeavored to explain the meaning of one difficult passage. Matter consists of elemental parts, of which all material objects are made, but nothing is permanent in form. The nature of the universe, according to Antonius's expression, loves nothing so much as to change the things which are, and to make new things like them. For everything that exists is in a manner the seed of that which will be. But thou art thinking only of seeds which are cast into the earth and into a womb. But this is a very vulgar notion. All things that are in a constant flux and change, some things are dissolved into the elements, others come in their places, and so the whole universe continues ever young and perfect. Antonius has some obscure expressions about what he calls seminal principles. He opposes them to the Epicurean atoms, and consequently, his seminal principles are not material atoms which wander about at hazard and combine about it at hazard and combine nobody knows how. In one passage, he speaks of living principles, souls, after the dissolution of their bodies being received into the seminal principle of the universe. Schultz thinks that by seminal principles, Antonius means the relation of the various elemental principles, which relations are determined by the deity and by which alone the production of organized beings is possible. This may be the meaning, but if it is, nothing of any value can be derived from it. Antonius often uses the word nature, and we must attempt to fix in meaning. The simple etymological sense of whatever that Greek word is production, the birth of what we call things. The Roman used natura, which also means birth, originally, but neither the Greeks nor the Romans stuck to this simple meaning, nor do we. Antonius says whether the universe is a concourse of atoms or nature is a system, let this first be established that I am a part of the whole which is governed by nature. Here it might seem as if nature were personified and viewed as an active, efficient power, as something which, if not independent of the deity, acts by a power which is given to it by the deity. Such, if I understand the expression right, is the way in which the word nature is often used now, though it is plain that the many writers use the word without fixing any exact meaning to it. It is the same with the expression laws of nature, which some writers may use in an intelligible sense, but others clearly use it in no definite sense at all. There is no meaning in the word nature except that which Bishop Butler assigns to it when he says the only distinct meaning of that word nature is stated fixed or settled, since what is natural rather, as much required and presupposed and presupposes an intelligent agent to render it, so i.e. to effect it continually or at stated times, and what is supernatural or miraculous does not affect it at once. This is Plato's meaning when he says that God holds the beginning and the end and middle of all that exists and proceeds straight on his course, making his circuit according to nature, that is, by a fixed order. And he is continually accompanied by justice, who punishes those who deviate from the divine law, that is, from the order of course which God observes. When you look at the notion of the planets and action of what we call gravitation, the elemental combination of unorganized bodies and their resolution, the production of plants and of living bodies, their generation, growth, and their dissolution, which we call their death, we observe a regular sequence of phenomena, which within the limits of experience present and past, so far as we know the past, is fixed and invariable. Okay. But if this is not so, if the order and the sequence of phenomena as known to us are subject to change in the course of an infinite progression, and such change is conceivable, we have not discovered, nor shall we ever discover, the whole of the order and sequence of phenomena, in which sequence there may be involved according to its very nature, that is, according to its fixed order, some variations of what is now called the order or nature of things. It is also conceivable that such changes have taken place, changes in the order of things, as we are compelled by the imperfection of language to call them, but which are no changes. And further, it is certain that our knowledge of the true sequence of all actual phenomena, as for instance the phenomena of generation, growth, and dissolution, is and ever must be imperfect. We do not fare much better when we speak of causes and effects than when we speak of nature. For the practical purpose of life, we may use the terms cause and effect conveniently, and we may fix a distinct meaning to them, distinct enough at least to prevent all misunderstanding, but the case is different when we speak of cause and effect as of things. All that we know is phenomena, as the Greeks call them, or appearances which follow one another in a regular order as we conceive it. So that if someone phenomenon should fail in the series, we conceive that there must either be an interruption of the series or that something else will appear after the phenomena, which has failed to appear and will occupy the vacant place. And so the series in its progression may be modified or totally changed. Cause and effect then mean nothing in the sequence of natural phenomena beyond what I have said. And the real cause, or the transcendent cause, as some would call it, of each successive phenomenon is in that which is the cause of all things which are, which have been, and which will be forever. Thus the word creation may have a real sense if we consider it as the first. If we can conceive a first in the present order of natural phenomena, but in the vulgar sense, a creation of all things at a certain time, followed by a quiescence of the first cause and an abandonment of all sequences of phenomena to the law of nature, or to the other words that people may use, is absolutely absurd. Now, there's a long note here. Let's see what it says. Time and space are the condition of our thought, but time, infinite, and space, infinite, cannot be objects of thought except in a very imperfect way. Time and space must not in any way be thought of when we think of the deity. Swedenborg says the natural man may believe that he would have no thought if the idea of time and space and of things material were taken away, for upon those he founded all the thought that man has. But let him know that the thoughts are limited and confined in proportion as they partake of time, of space, and of what is material, and what they are, and that they are not limited and are extended in proportion as they do not partake of those things. Since the mind is so far elevated above the things corporeal and worldly. And let's continue. Now, though there is great difficulty in understanding all the passages of Antoninus in which he speaks of nature, of the changes of things, and of the economy of the universe, I am convinced that his sense of nature and natural, natural, nature and natural, is the same as that which I have stated. And as he was a man who knew how to use words in a clear way and with strict consistency, we ought to assume, even if his meaning in some passage is doubtful, that his view of nature was in harmony with his fixed belief in the all-pervading, ever-present, and ever-acting energy of God. There is much in Antonius that is hard to understand, and it might be said that he did not fully comprehend all that he wrote, which would, however, be in no way unremarkable, for it happens now that a man may write what neither he nor anybody can understand. Antonius tells us to look at things and see what they are, resolving them into the material, the casual, and the relation, or the purpose, by which he seems to mean something in the nature of what we call effect or end. The word clause is the difficulty. The word cause is the difficulty. There is the same word in the Sanskrit and the subtle philosophers of India and of Greece and the less subtle philosophers of modern times have all used this word or an equivalent word in a vague way. Yet the confusion sometimes may be in the inevitable ambiguity of language rather than in the mind of the writer. For I cannot think that some of the wisest of men did not know what they intended to say. When Antonius says that everything that exists is in a manner the seed of that which will be, he might be supposed to say that some of the Indian philosophers have said. To say what some of the Indian philosophers have said. And thus a profound truth might be converted into a gross absurdity. But he says, in a manner. And in a manner, he said true. And in another manner, if you mistake his meaning, he says false. He said false. When Plato says nothing ever is, but is always becoming, he delivered a text out of which we may derive something, for he destroys by it not all practical, but all speculative notions of cause and effect. The whole series of things, what they intended to say. Now, let's see. What they intended to say. Okay, right here. When Antonius says that everything that exists is in a manner the seed of. Okay. Oh, here we go. I lost my place. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. He might supposed to say that something. Okay, said this profound. Okay, here. Sorry. Everything that exists is in a manner the seed of that which will be. He may have supposed to say, with some of the Indian philosophers have said, and thus a profound truth might be converted into gross absurdity. But he says in a manner, and in a manner he said true, and in another manner, if you mistake his meaning, he says false. When Plato says nothing ever is, but is always becoming, he delivered a text out of which we may derive something, for he destroys by it not all practical, but all speculative notions of cause and effect, the whole series of things as they appear to us, must be contemplated in time, and that is in succession, and we conceive or suppose intervals between one state of thing and another state of things, so that there is priority and sequence and interval and being and the ceasing to be and beginning and ending, but there is nothing of that kind in the nature of things. It is an everlasting continuity. When Antoninus speaks of generation, he speaks of one cause acting and then another cause taking up the work which the former left in a certain state, and so on. And we must conceive that he had some notion, like what has been called the self-evolving power of nature. A fine phrase indeed, the full import of which I believe that the writer of it did not see, and thus he laid himself open to the imputation of being a follower of one of the Hindu sects, which makes all things come by evolution out of nature or matter, or out of something which takes place, which takes the place of deity, but is not deity. It would have all men think as they please or as they can, and I only claim the same freedom which I give. When a man writes everything, we may fairly try to find out all that his words must mean, even if the result is that they mean what he did not mean. And if we find that contradiction it is not our fault, but his misfortune. Now Antonius is perhaps somewhat in the condition in what he says, though he speaks at the end of the paragraph of the power which acts unseen by the eyes, but still no less clearly. We're going to have to end that here. We've been reading from the Harvard Classics, and specifically the philosophy of Antonius. And if you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe, ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, always support me in any way. If you want to join the Discord server, all the information will be in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.